Hi there, Tony Curtin here from EngageLearningAndDevelopment.com. In this short webinar, I'm going to take you through two important concepts when we're thinking about designing our PowerPoint to make it engaging for your next presentation. Those two things are, number one, what is the rule of thirds? And I want to take you through very briefly this sort of classic photography technique that we can capitalize on when designing our PowerPoint slides. And secondly, if we want to implement that idea, how do we go about changing our guidelines in PowerPoint so that we can adhere to this principle a little bit more easily? So let's get into it. Firstly, what is the rule of thirds? Well, you may have heard of it before, and if you haven't heard of it, you will have certainly seen it even without knowing it. The rule of thirds is a fundamental photography technique used to make images more aesthetically pleasing. And we see it used in photos all around the world. Let me show you a couple of examples. Here's a classic landscape I've grabbed off the net here. The rule of thirds says that this looks best when it is broken up, or this landscape is more aesthetically pleasing when it is divided into relatively equal thirds, like so. And you can see here the thirds refer to these horizontal, in this case, these horizontal thirds here. And you can see that these two lines that divide up and make up the three sections there horizontally, you can see that they really divide up our picture. And it doesn't take you too long to work out how this has been divided up. We have our foreground, midground, and up here we've got the sky, which is pretty much aligned perfectly with that top line there. Let's take a look at another example. Classic photo here. We can see the rule of thirds has been used really nicely to capture these gentlemen, really orientates us to the center and where we should be looking in that picture. Here's another classic painting or classic photograph of the Mona Lisa. And you can see here that's divided up again using the rule of thirds. Here's a classic shot of Sydney Harbour. And the photographer's done a pretty good job here of sticking to the rule of thirds. That waterline is almost perfectly on that third line there. Now, it's not about getting it perfect, but what it does do is it helps photographers and it helps designers like you to be able to structure your images, place your images in a way that we know is going to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. The other thing the rule of thirds does is it gives us 4 clear reference points. And even more than that, but at least it gives us 4 clear reference points, as you see here, where we can use to maybe offset images to create a little bit of tension or draw the eye in a particular way. Have a look at these examples. Immediately we go off to the top left, and there's no surprise that little squirrel, I think it's a squirrel, is positioned perfectly in the top left marker up there. Over here, well, no PowerPoint, no set of images these days is complete without a cat, and there you have it. And this particular photo creates a bit of tension. The cat is pushed over to the left. The marker that's been used, or the crosshairs that have been used, are the bottom left. You can see that. And that immediately draws our eye to the left, but also creates a little bit of mystery as to, well, what is the cat looking at? Creates a little bit of space here. So how do you apply these to your PowerPoints easily and quickly? Well, the best way to do this is to set up your grid in your PowerPoint. And I do this in my templates. So I just start with a grid that looks a little something like this. Now, of course, I've imposed this grid so it makes it a little bit easier for you to see. I keep calling it a grid. I'm sorry, folks. They call them guides. These are guidelines in PowerPoint. So you can see my guidelines here. But let me take you into the back end of PowerPoint to show you how to set this up. So here we are in the same slide deck, and you can see here that I've got my guidelines turned on. And you probably already know where to go and do that. Over in the View section, the View tab up here. And you can see over in this middle section here, you've got ruler, grid lines, guides. And grid lines you often have on as well, and you can set those up. That's for a different video. We're talking about the guidelines here. Now in PowerPoint's default is set up, as you'll know, in a quadrant. So you have just a simple crosshairs. And so what I've done here, as you can see from this particular slide, I've had to add in extra guidelines, one horizontal and one vertical guideline, so that it makes positioning, when I go to position my images, when I go to structure my slide, it's made much easier for me. I know where my grid is, and I can work from my grid. So how do I put these into play? Well, firstly, the first thing you want to do is just hover over wherever your guideline is. Yours will be set up, as I said, in a quadrant. But you simply right click, and then you'll click to add a vertical line and click to add a horizontal line. It's that easy. Now I'm going to remove those two. Right click, that was. So right click and you can add either. Importantly, what are the measurements? Well, I've got this set at 560. So you simply align your grid along your line, and I measured this out a while ago. So 560, you can take my word for that, or you can measure it out yourself. And then you've got 330 there on the horizontal, and then 330 again. So you just sort of run it up and down until you get to that 330 marker. Now, of course, you've probably picked up, I'm using widescreen here, landscape, or also known as 16 by 9. What if you're using the standard format of PowerPoint, or 4 by 3? Let me take you to that and I'll show you the measurements there. So here we are in my 14 by 3 template. What are the measurements? 4.3, and that'll be 4.3 as well. And then over on our horizontal line, 3.5, and you can measure these out yourself, of course, and 3.5. And that works pretty well for me. Is it an exact science? No, it doesn't really need to be. It's just about giving you a bit of a guideline to make positioning your images and making your slides stand out and make them a little more aesthetically pleasing by using the rule of thirds. So thanks very much for tuning in. And if you want any templates with the grids already set up, so you don't have to worry yourself, go to my website, engagelearninganddevelopment.com, and click on the resources tab, and you'll find lots of good stuff there that you can download and you can circumvent and take a few shortcuts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.